have on the back.
What's going on, beautiful people? I'm the Grandmaster, and I also go by D-Ray, bringing you guys the next episode of the Grandmaster's Table. And I am joined, as always, by my beautiful co-host, Summer. Going to say hi?
Hi.
I'm glad she actually leaned into the mic this time, because we're talking about it beforehand. She sits all the way for our setup. Is I'm here sitting in my gamer's chair. I like to say the full thing, gamer's chair. And I'm leaning close to the microphone, and homegirl is sitting here next to this couch that I have next to my desk, and she's all the way leaned back, like, dude, get forward.
I'm trying to relax.
You sound like a pixie fairy in the back. But anyway, guys, we have a big episode for you today. Draft League players rejoice. If you were to ask a lot of people that do power rankings, a lot of people that have been doing this whole Draft League format shebang for quite some time, there's a Draft League summit, right? And there's a certain amount of people that sit on that summit, and according to a lot of people's opinion, this man would probably be at the top. So we're very excited to bring to you today.
I've heard is one of the nicest people in Draft
yeah.
League
So
too.
we've also heard that. That's a good thing for us being able to throw that on there too. But guys, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, please help us in welcoming Gypsy King.
Hey guys, thanks for that welcome. That was very nice. Good to be here on the channel. My name's Gypsy. Have some good chats today.
Yes, we'll say that before we started. This guy he's really nice. It's just your demeanor is just amazing. We're excited for this episode, and if you guys are excited for it too, do us a massive favor. Make sure you smash the thumbs up button, and if you're new, por favor, hit the subscribe button, turn on post notifications, hit the bell button so you just get notified every single time we post a new video. So it's funny that we'll talk about this before we were waiting to get ourselves up and going. I was looking at some statistics. 50% of you that watch these videos are not subscribed, so do me the massive favor.
Oh my god,
hit that subscribe button. You won't regret it. It shows us and how you support us. You are so red.
Yeah,
this guy, you're so funny. But anyway, Gypsy, how you doing, my man? How are things going?
I'm doing great, thanks, man. Yeah, no, I'm had a nice day, and it's good to be here chatting to both of you.
It's a real trip. It's for us right now, currently during recording, it is 10 o'clock p.m. Pacific Standard Time. We live on the west coast of the United States. You live in Australia, correct?
That's right. So it's actually the afternoon. So we're quite a time zone difference.
That's crazy.
Yeah. So you're midday afternoon. So you got the sun out, a normal typical day. It's crazy to think about how the hemisphere works and how you're basically moving in the future.
Yeah,
Do you ever find
it really is?
Do you ever find it difficult to schedule with any of your opponents sometimes when you're living on a different side of the world?
Yeah, that's probably in terms of just issues with draft, that's probably the big one is when people have to schedule with me to fight.
Yeah.
It tends to be pretty tricky. Yeah, because obviously everyone's got conflicting schedules. People are busy, work, study, whatever it is, and the time difference just throws a spanner in the works a bit there. But we end up getting it done. I tend to play usually towards and it typically works out fine, but it's definitely been a headache in the past. Definitely for some different tournaments that I've played in.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, a bit of a headache. I don't think Americans like matching up with
They can barely handle a 2-hour time difference.
Yeah, I'd be talking to some of my East Coast folks that are over 3 hours ahead.
3 hours, yeah.
And they're like, hey, this is going to be tough. I'm like, whoa, listen, you got people like Gypsy across the world. If you can make it work, you can make it work.
That's it.
Yeah.
I do know that you have your own YouTube channel. How long have you been on the platform?
Yeah, so I've platformed for a few years now. Probably had my first upload back in 2016 or 2017. So yeah, a few years now. But my content's sort of changed over time. But for the most part, still uploading the draft sort of format content. That's how I got started on YouTube through a suggestion by a friend of mine and a guy called Joe. He suggested that I make a YouTube channel because he could see that I had a knack for draft, and it just sort of took off from there. So
nice.
A knack for draft, he says. I'm curious to know your story. So how long have you been playing Pokemon in this competitive format?
From a competitive sense, I've been playing towards the sort of latter part of Generation 5. So I really got into the competitive scene. Like I figured it out. Like got a bearing of it in early XY. That's when I started playing a lot. So that's actually when I started playing draft. I was playing OU before I got into draft a lot, but it was in early XY. That's when I really kind of got a taste for the draft format.
Nice.
And,
so
yeah.
Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off. So it's relatively recent. So Gen 7 and Gen 5, you said, is when you came in XY?
Like
Gen 6 is when I played the games. Yeah, so like the beginning of Gen 6 is when I started competitive draft. I've played like Pokemon since I was very young, but never like fully understanding the competitive aspect of it until I really delved in sort of Generation 5, Generation 6. Yeah.
Well, so it's relatively recent. I'm curious to know that. How long have you been a fan of the actual franchise itself?
Oh man, I've been a fan since I was a kid. Like I collected Pokemon cards. They were really big over here in Australia.
Wow,
yeah, I'm sure you guys have seen those over in the US too.
Yes.
So that I actually sort of reading Pokemon cards like that accelerated my reading because I was just so into it.
Wow.
And then I had the Game Boy, as everyone played like Leaf, Pokemon Blue and Red, and then but I actually started on Leaf Green. It's like I think I would have been about 11 or so. So yeah, I've been playing it for a long time, but competitively speaking, I've for about 6 years now.
So when you clicked and you found it, you clicked it pretty quick. So did you ever play any other games that's more towards the same? Because I love to explain it to people whenever they ask what competitive Pokemon really is, and I love to compare it to kind of like a hybrid mix of like poker and chess, because there's that analytical side of it and the strategical aspect of it. When you say that it clicked, was it more so just you digging deeper into the competitive format, or just one day is this from like grinding and basically getting like playing all these matchups and then just end up losing and learning from your mistakes, or was it just more so like you just got it right away?
Well, yeah, that's a really good question. It was actually I used to have Wi-Fi battles with a friend of mine, and we used to use legendaries. Like we used to use like Mewtwo, and it was actually we both had a Mewtwo, but his Mewtwo would actually always be faster than mine, and I didn't understand. I had no understanding of what IVs were or EVs or like speed boosting natures or anything like that. And I wanted to understand why that kept on happening. Why my attacks did more and his did less, but he was faster. But they were the same Pokemon. So I started looking into it more, and I found out about Smogon, which is sort of the platform that a lot of newcomers kind of drift towards when coming into Pokemon. Yeah, and that's how I got my start in the OU kind of scene, the sort of standard format before I started playing draft. And draft was just a kind of natural evolution for me. I really enjoyed OU. And, the creative aspect of draft is what really drew me to it.
Yeah,
that's the differentiator. The Smogon OU ladder / UU, etc. The Smogon ladder essentially to get people into draft league and able to use all sorts of Pokemon that aren't necessarily used in a specific tier and being a little bit more creative. So it's cool that you got started in that manner.
Yeah.
I'm curious what you do. Now that we talked about you more in the Pokemon scene, what is it that you do for a living? What is it that you do when you're not doing content? Because I know you've been kind of in and out of making content as of recent. You're a little bit more active, more towards Gen 7, not so much so now. Is it more so because your life outside of Pokemon has gotten a little bit more busy?
Yeah, absolutely. That's it. That's the main reason, man. I've got a background in finance, and I'm really focused on investing at the moment, particularly in cryptocurrency. That's really where my focus is.
Joey too.
Yeah, Joey. He's all we're both very very much interested in it. There's lots of opportunity, lots of excitement in that area. So that's really been my focus, particularly this year. Like I've still got a lot of love for Pokemon, and I still play draft. But my most of my time has been spent in business and in investing this year. That's really been where my focus has been at. But as far as draft goes, like my sort of desire for what I want to achieve in draft has also changed over the years. So because I've played in a lot of individual leagues, and I've sort of achieved what I set out to achieve and what I wanted to achieve. My sort of focus has moved more towards team tournaments. I tend to get more of a kick out of that nowadays than so things like the Draft Premier League. I'm not sure if you're familiar with the Draft Premier League, but that's so that's like a fun opportunity for people to play at the highest sort of level of team tournaments and draft, and is something that a lot of people really enjoy. So
that's awesome.
We're definitely going to get into that because the PGP is something that we have a lot of friends a lot of close friends that are participating in that. So Panther, when he's not the main person that organizes the PGP, but he's one of the main to get everybody together, get all these leagues together at one time. It's a cool little concept to get the best draft league players to in a specific, like you said, team to get together and showcase their talents amongst others that isn't necessarily on the YouTube spotlight. When you were creating content back in Gen 7 a little bit more consistently with your team, the Sharpedos, remind me the city name that you had for your draft team?
So good memory. It was the Sydney Sharpedos.
Sydney Sharpedos.
We had I have a friend that sent me one of your playlists because I actually came into Draft League format mostly as a fan, watching the YouTube scene, like with Joey Pokemon MD, like we just had recently, Kyle A, a lot of people like that, and I was playing VGC, which is the doubles format, the official format of the Pokemon Company. So I was doing that very consistently. I was traveling. I actually was qualified to go to World in 2016. Couldn't go because Summer got pregnant, so we had to. It was ironically the same weekend, which was the first qualifying rounds. Like I'd be able to get the time to get over there, but that's when I basically stopped.
Totally understandable.
Sorry.
Yeah, Summer's like cringing. She's like, "I'm so sorry." All the time and money spent. I'm just kidding. He came early. It was a long whole situation. But I came in a draft league recently as of last year.
Yeah.
And I've learned a lot from the people that you play in the PGP. A lot of my close friends from there. And that's how I got my start. So knowing that you came in Gen 7, it's a completely different meta. Well, have you kind of dipped into Generation 8 more so outside of the National Dex format? What are your thoughts on Generation 8 movement, like at this time?
Yeah, so it's a great question. Generation 8, I think, is a lot of fun. I played in the ITL, which is the sort of only league that I've uploaded to my channel for Generation 8 so far, and that was pre-National Dex. And I think that meta was fun at first, but it over time quickly became stale. In the Draft Premier League, the most recent season we had, we saw that meta was the meta for Generation 8, and you saw a lot of matchups. It wasn't a very varied meta. There was a lot of the same mons on each side, so that tends to get a bit boring. But now that National Dex is out and we're sort of expanding Dex, seeing a lot more creativity and a lot more options, I think it's a lot of fun. I think honestly, like the departure from Z moves, I actually kind of miss Z moves. I can't lie. As controversial as they were, I think they were. I actually enjoyed them back on it, but yeah, I think as decks grow, like as more of the DLCs come, we get more. The draft format's just going to get better and better over the course of Gen 8. I do like it, yeah.
Yeah, I definitely feel that of more people getting excited for this, like for it opening up more to being more mons and stuff. So
what Summer's referring to is being able to release more Pokemon in like the Wi-Fi scene that's coming in the Crown Tundra.
Yeah.
But you're for mechanic. You just mentioned how you're missing Z moves from before. What's your idea and your intake? I'm curious to know from you specifically what your opinion is on the new mechanic of Generation 8, which is Dynamax. I know that these leagues that we're participating in now, these NatDex leagues are not allowing it just because in most cases it's pretty overpowered. Yeah. But what's your opinion on the new mechanic of Dynamax and Gigantamax?
Yeah, so that's a one. I think from a competitive perspective, it does sort of reduce how competitive a league can be if they allow it, because it's unlike, and like you could make this argument to a certain extent for Z moves as well, although I don't think the same as you could for Gigantamax and Dynamax. But I think you can't really, like, apart from substitute and protect to a degree, you can't really get around Dynamax the same way you could with something like Z moves. Z moves like were troublesome, but I think Dynamax kind of showed like early on if you know, for people who played like ladder matches, you know, you and the other tiers and experienced Dynamax in that setting, it was pretty clearly broken. I think certain mons just almost impossible to counter in that form, and depending on the Dynamax rules of the league, like if any mon is able to Dynamax, it gets a bit ridiculous. I think maybe leagues might reintroduce it at some point as the generation becomes a bit stale, but the fact that they're releasing DLCs over time will kind of keep the meta interesting. But you do tend to see, like, if the generation stretches for a long period of time, people want volatility, they want things spiced up. Like last gen, we saw a lot of leagues introducing Ubers to kind of spice things up, to be a bit more exciting. So yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if we see Dynamax like make some kind of return. It'll probably be nerfed. I think I saw the APA had a rule where like the Dynamax one had to, or the Gigantamax one or whatever it was, had to hold a Pokeball instead of another item, which is an interesting take. It kind of nerfs it, which I think is cool. But yeah, I think ultimately for me, like Megas were like the cream of the crop, generational additions to a game. I think they were fantastic. I really enjoyed that addition to the game. Z moves, I think, were really great too, but a bit more controversial. They could definitely be broken in the wrong setting, like the Omni boosting Z moves and stuff. I think Dynamax, like, yeah, ultimately, like, I'm not that big on it, but I wouldn't be surprised if it return in some way in the future.
Yeah, it's fun to watch. Like,
it's fun to watch.
It's
like if you're
maybe
a fan,
not as a competitor, but
yeah, I mean, big, small Pokemon turn big Pokemon. That's always fun to watch.
Absolutely.
But you know, Gypsy and I we're gonna think of it a little bit different. Then all of a sudden, this is freaking massive, double HP. And Summer's watching it on TV, and she goes, "Oh, look, it's massive, big Pokemon. Throw a ball, looks cool."
It is, and I got to say, it does look amazing. Twitch, it looks really good on that display. Seeing it all happen. So yeah, absolutely, very very nice experience on the Switch. Sure.
Yeah,
we have to segue this into, speaking of Pokemon, is that one of the most premier top questions that we have that everybody comes on the Grandmaster's table is that we have to get your take on, if we were to say to choose one Pokemon to be your absolute favorite of all time, and it doesn't have to be competitively, doesn't have to be aesthetically, but if you were to choose just one Pokemon, what's your favorite Pokemon of all time?
Ooh, that's tough. I know Joey said Suicune, but Suicune is like also a big fan of mine from the past. But I'll probably say, like, recently, just was like my experience with Draft, like Landorus T has been something that I've really loved, and something that most people will love. I think it'll be between Landorus and Celesteela. Celesteela is a mon that just really appeals to me. It's a lot of fun to use in Draft. Very versatile. Yeah, incredible.
I can see the Landorus from you because it's on your what's the word, your banner for your YouTube channel. Yeah. Lando's on the actual banner itself. But I'm actually curious of what I understand the appeal of Celesteela being one of the best Pokemon in Draft League format in Generation 7, 100%. But is it more so because of the competitiveness of the Pokemon, or is it an aesthetics thing?
Yeah, I guess the competitiveness, and also like it's a pretty mysterious mon. Like, what is it? It looks like a metal house that can fly. Like it's just odd. You know, I think it's interesting mon. But yeah, more so from a competitive aspect, I think Celly is just insane. Yeah.
Okay.
That's funny. Summer asked to see what it looked like, because I don't think, have you ever seen Celesteela before?
I've heard of it, but no, I've never seen it. It says it looks like a house.
It's funny.
It's like random.
It's got two separate arms that are kind of hovering over.
It's not even attached to the...
They're kind of hovering about. They're hovering about. It's like a rocket ship, almost, like you said, like a little bit of a house.
I can't see because I don't have my glasses.
Oh my god! Come back around. That's hilarious. So, for you creating content, we have to find out, man. So I know that you've been out of the game a little bit because you're busy with your other job and your cryptocurrency, which is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah.
The fact that you're even doing that, your IQ just to me increased like 1,000,000 times.
It's something I've always told you I want to get into, like, investing, because you got to make your money work for itself, basically. And
absolutely.
Oh, wrong one. But I tried to start looking into it, and it's like a different language to me. I feel like I need literally like the dummy book for investing, because I have no idea what any of the words mean, but I try. I want to invest so bad. I just don't know where to start.
That's great. No, like honestly, I know this topic a bit, but as far as investing goes, cryptocurrency, like you don't have to be. It's not a high IQ rocket scientist type, and it's accessible to anyone. You just have to like. It helps having guided. Like it helps having knowing where to look and knowing like what resources to look when you're getting into it. And thankfully, like there is that information out there on the internet. We are blessed to have that. But I get you. It is really exciting. But yeah, definitely like don't let that put you off looking into it further, just because it seems, intimidating at first. It's
definitely. Yeah. I agree, because I really if people want to create wealth for themselves, that's one of the main things that they do, because you're literally, like I said, you're making your money work for itself. So, which is
absolutely cool. That's right. Yeah, no, totally, 100% agree with that. Yeah.
So you creating content, we have to get this out in the open, because obviously the world misses Gypsy King. Now you primarily uploaded mostly Showdown content, correct? So you were in the NPL, which was one of the upload required Showdown leagues, I believe, back in the day when you were in Generation 7. Obviously, Generation 7 was a little bit more difficult to get on the YouTube platform, because you had to have this fancy capture card software, because the DS wasn't so friendly with getting on an OBS, etc., spending hundreds of dollars getting your DS modified to be able to even do things live or post coming, all that fun stuff. Now that we're a little bit more, now it's a little bit easier to do so on the Switch. Do you think that there's a chance that we'll be able to see Gypsy King make a return to the Wi-Fi scene?
Oh, look, anything's possible. I actually bought my girl a Switch, so I have one in the house.
Step one complete.
Step one complete. That's it. So I'm not saying, never saying never, sure, but yeah, the thing with it would just depend on like the setting for me, because at this point in sort of where I'm at with draft, like or in Mons in general, it's the competition that really sort of drives me to want to play it. If you get what I mean, like it's So if there was a competitive league that really kind of took my interest, and I happen to have the game, then I certainly wouldn't rule it out. But I think the thing about Showdown is that it is so accessible to people.
Yes.
And like you said, we had those issues in Gen 7. It was just very difficult. I had to get friends to record. Wow. When I uploaded a Wi-Fi battle here and there, from kind friends who would record for me and send me the files. But look, who knows? I'm not going to say no.
We were talking about this with some of our close friends, a lot of these friends that because they're in that Premier League you're talking about, but it was a conversation that we were having, that it's actually true exactly what you said, that showed the differences between Wi-Fi and Showdown is that accessibility that you have that gives players that are not necessarily better than the ones that you see that are on YouTube doing the Wi-Fi scene, but the ones that are more polished, that play the game a little bit more of a raw, uncut kind of way, that have been doing it for quite longer, that don't have to invest in such heavy equipment to be able to be content creators, because not everybody could do that. There's a lot of introverted people that are really good at the game that give you more of a competitive push when you play Showdown leagues. So absolutely, would you say that it's that what drives you, is that there's a lot more competition that you find on Showdown leagues?
Yeah, I think and like I've got a lot of love for like YouTube leagues as well. I played in the APA Little Cup league in an off season. That was a YouTube one, and I had a lot of fun with that. Played some big names in the YouTube scene as well. But for me, just like my personal preference, I do kind of gravitate towards Showdown, because it does tend to be where, because you've got so many more people being able to access Showdown, just statistically you're going to have more, the chances of having like stronger opponents in a bigger pool of players is higher than, and there are some really solid, really strong players on the YouTube scene, guys like Joey, like you mentioned, and many others as well. But yeah, like being in the draft scene as long as I have, you do kind of get a picture that like the real kind of strength in the community, or the real kind of seasoned, as you said, like polished players do tend to stick to the showdown side of it. But like each their own. Like a lot of people do really enjoy the beautiful graphics on the Switch and on the DS, and I totally get that. It's a completely different experience playing on a console than playing on your computer. So I totally get the desire to play on console. Absolutely.
I'm gonna beat this into your brain to the point where we get him out of. I'm gonna get him.
But
out
even
there.
then, like even now, even though it is more accessible, they're still very pricey. Like equipment, you still need an Elgato, which is or some variation of that, which is still expensive, and the Switch is not cheap either. So I definitely see it. And there's a lot of people that just love playing Pokemon just for competitiveness. They don't want to necessarily upload that, you know, they don't want to do the whole YouTube 100%. Thing apart, you know. So
yes,
that's right. That's right. Because like as you both would know, like the whole uploading to YouTube and editing, it's very it is time consuming, and it's not easy, especially when you get started. Like I know a lot of draft players who are good players, but they've tried to upload to YouTube and it just hasn't worked out because they just they're not willing to, you know, go through the process of learning how to upload and how to speak properly and with the microphone and all that sort of stuff. Like it's a big time investment and effort investment. A lot of people on the showdown side of things would just prefer to play their games and done with it. But yeah, so I do take my hat off to people who do the YouTube side of it, because there's a lot that goes into it.
Yep.
I'm gonna use what you just said to segue into this next thing, because you said to learn how to speak. My man, your voice is of angels. Do you have a significant other in your life?
Because Daniel's looking, apparently.
Yes, I do. I'm pretty blessed to have an amazing girl in my life. So yeah, I do. But, yeah.
So there's a lot of listeners right now that are like,
cry,
dang it. That's amazing. So I'm just curious to know you as a person more so. Like you doing this whole cryptocurrency, living in Australia. I have a couple friends that do live in Australia. Shout out to Kurt the Buswell. And who else lives in Australia? Who lives in Australia that we know that's there often?
I don't know.
I think it's just Kurt. I think it's just Kurt the Buswell.
I think I know Kurt.
Yeah.
Kurt's also big in the EPA. You probably heard his name before. If not his logo.
I've definitely seen that around.
Yeah.
What's life like out there? I'm very curious of it. What part of Australia do you live in?
Yeah, so I live in Sydney, which is the east coast of the country. But I've lived all over the west coast too. And it's things are. I mean, I love Australia. Things are unusual now with what's happening, COVID and stuff around the world. We got the state below me, Melbourne. They've been in a lockdown for like 8 weeks, so it's pretty full on down there. Yeah, it's a bit of a contrast to where I am up in Sydney. It's kind of life as usual up here. You got people wearing masks, but apart from that, things are pretty chill here. But overall, like pre-2020, when things were kind of normal, I mean, it's probably, I don't know how I would compare it to a country in the US, but I live on the coast, so it's like coast living. Cities sort of nearby. It's a nice place. Have you guys ever been to Australia?
We have not. That's why I was curious.
So
We've always wondered.
Sounds like, I mean, we're in San Diego, and so that's how we're on the coast. We're right on the beach, and we're also city too.
But I feel like your coast is like much more extreme than ours, right?
Their coast is a lot more beautiful than our freaking coast. Just from pictures.
I haven't been to San Diego myself, but I've heard great things about that area though. Like, I'm sure you guys have beautiful beaches too, but I'd recommend, like, if you can come to Australia, check it out at some point.
We need to.
It's definitely on our bucket list, like for sure, to go to Australia. At least it is.
We'll hit you up and then we'll have you take us around the city.
Absolutely. Sounds good.
So guys, if you guys aren't already, we'll transition over to Twitter. Thank you guys so much for hitting up. Whenever we have a guest come on for the Grandmaster's table, we'll always announce them. So make sure you guys are following me at Grandmaster D-Ray, so you guys get the latest news whenever we have our guest here on the podcast. And today was no different. So we have a bunch of questions here. Some of them, a lot of them are really good Draft League players, so I'm sure that a lot of them are ready to pick your brain. We're going to go from the bottom to the top because I haven't realized that obviously whoever starts to comment first gets pushed to the bottom and then vice versa. So I want to do it in reverse today.
Really?
So guys, thank you so much for submitting those questions. The first one that we have here today is from @Vepsis_. Phenomenal Draft League battler, I will say.
Yes.
He asks you, how much have you been playing in leagues in Gen 8? And have you enjoyed it more or less compared to Gen 7 or Gen 6?
Yeah, so like I said earlier, I played a pre-national Dex. I played an ITL. I had played a season there and I won that, so that was a nice way to start the gen. I've also played Gen 8 in the recent Draft Premier League that we had, and that was pretty fun too. But the most recent draft I've played filling in for Panther in the in a tour. I think you mentioned earlier the PGP. Or the,
yes.
Yeah. So I was playing the PGP for Panther, a friend of mine, and yeah, had some good games there. Enjoyed teaming with the guys in the APA group. I haven't played nearly as much Gen 8 as I have in Gen 7. I've just been busier with things in real life, but I do think it is a lot of fun, and I think once the Dex expands further and we get a whole lot of new mons available, it's just going to get better over time.
Yeah.
Yeah, 100%. More toys to play with just makes it more fun.
Yeah.
Obviously.
Exactly.
Stuff, right?
Exactly. Yeah. That's right.
And then the next question I have here is from @Starfish, a good friend of ours, Star_Fish. He asks you, what is your opinion on people? Wait, let me read this over. What is your opinion on people to spend? Good job, Star. He's a good friend of ours. What's your opinion on people who spend all of their time in leagues just chasing clout rather than just having fun? I'd assume people are always trying to fight you for clout. He says thanks for answering. So I think that what he's trying to ask you is that, do you ever find that people kind of reach out to you to, maybe it could be on the YouTube scene, but just want to battle you just for your name?
Not so much like reaching out to me these days. I used to get a little bit of that back in the day, but more so like if I enter a tour, there are definitely people who like want to match up with me to see like how they go, or like Draft Premier League, for example. Like, you know, people will try and rig matchups to face me in the past. As far as my opinion, people chasing cloud versus having fun, I think it's different for everyone. Like, there are a lot of people who just play draft for fun. There are others who get a bit too caught up in the kind of, I guess you could say, clout chasing, and end up regretting it later. They reflect on it, but yeah, I haven't been, to be honest. I like the showdown scene. The showdown community is very different from the YouTube community. Like the kind of competitive showdown sort of I don't know how to say this politely, but like the sort of competitive showdown.
Don't be polite, man. Just let it go. Let it all out.
I was just gonna say, like, there is, and I think anyone who's played in tour on showdown stuff can kind of relate to this. That there is a circle jerk between kind of like certain cliques within the draft league community. I think that's where you see clout chasing, is people trying to fit in, and you know, a lot of these people are like they're quite sort of kids or like young adults, and they're, you know, just trying to get like recognition from people who they like and stuff like that. So I think you do see a fair bit of that, and it is kind of easy to watch as someone who's a bit older. But I think for the most part, like, I think the scene as a whole is becoming a bit better. Like, people seem to be a bit nicer to each other and stuff. But I mean, there's always clout chasing. I think just don't take it too seriously. Like, it's just people say, you know, people are going to say stuff on the internet, and just try and have fun with it. And if your goal is to like play, you know, is to like ascend and try and get into the most competitive thing, we'll just stick to that. Try not to chase clout, because that'll just end up probably hurting you in the long run. Yeah,
Yeah, sometimes people just go out for the wrong reasons. It's I always like to relate it to, if you're not already monetized and if you're on the YouTube scene and you're chasing the clout, there's always going to be that element of trying to grow, and we definitely understand that because we're on that grind as well. But there's a certain demeanor that you can take upon it that it can be kind of negative, especially to the person that you're trying to ask to assist you to get up. It comes off on your content. So just be genuine in what you do, and then good things will happen.
Exactly.
Karma in a way, right?
Yeah.
So perfect. And then the next question that we have is from Slick Panther, and he's going to give it to you in 3 different parts. So the first part that he asks you,
at Panther Slick.
Yeah, at Panther Slick, good buddy of mine. He's going to ask you, did you enjoy teaming with Crit City in the DPL?
Yeah, I did. I love teaming Crit City. That was DPL season 2. We were kind of, Crit City was sort of seen as the underdog. That was back when I used to sign up in the player pool instead of signing up captain. So that season I was in the player pool, and they Jacob, one of their captains, sort of accidentally bid a bit too much on me. I ended up going for a pretty crazy amount, and that left the team with very little budget to pick the rest of the guys. So as a result, we had a team full of people who didn't really have an established presence at that point, but were good players. But lots of people kind of underestimated our team, and we ended up having an amazing season, and we went all the way to finals. We got a bit like final in the final kind of week against our opponents, and just missed out on the title. But it was a great season, and the kind of camaraderie in the team was really high. Yeah, good bunch of people, and we still chat to this day. Like, we still got the
that's awesome.
That's cool.
Yeah. So that was good. It's good fun.
There's that cool element too about that team league, is that you guys obviously are going to be talking to each other on a daily basis. So you develop those relationships outside of just Pokemon. So that's cool that you're able to keep in contact with those people. That's pretty awesome. How long ago was that?
That would have been, I want to say, like midway through 2018. Yeah. 2019. Last year. Okay. It would have been like midway. I think that sounds right. It was probably in the winter of US time. That makes sense. So like, mid to late last year, I think. Cool. Right. Yeah.
I like the idea of, because it's not really common. Like, I've just heard it recently of like the team leagues, because it's like it kind of, you get different perspectives other than your own. I mean, I know people can have front offices and stuff, but you're kind of forced to think for other people too, and like think about other people, and I think it just adds a different element to draft that is more than just like playing for yourself, which is cool. Like, it's like more like a team sport, which I'm a big fan of team sports, but it's different. It makes you think of different things that you wouldn't necessarily think on your own.
100%. Like, honestly, me, like, I've been playing for so long now that I've played in so many individual leagues that I no longer get a buzz. Like, I remember when I used to play in NPL, that was my first big league that I sort of made a name for myself in, and you know, the euphoria of winning that, the times that I did was great, and it's very hard to replicate that all these years later, having been playing as long as I have. So I think that applies to a lot of other successful players. I've sort of talked to them about this, and they have the same experience. It becomes less, you enjoy the wins less and less. You sort of, this is going to sound bad, but you sort of just assume you're going to win. So when you win, you don't feel good. It's not like, oh great, I won. It's just like, okay.
It's not as satisfying.
It's not as satisfying.
Exactly. It's not as satisfying, the word. You only stand to feel bad if you lose. It's like, oh, what have I done? Like, so whereas in a team environment, you're actually able to like pick. It's a whole different kind of experience, because you can't just succeed. The rest of your team has to succeed. So you're incentivized to help everyone else do well, and through that build friendships. And like you said, it's a team sport. So for me, at the end of the day, that's what I sort of prefer to play now. It's just more like enjoyable. Yeah.
That's cool. I like that. That's a cool team concept. This is gonna be a big one, because I read this and I was like, oh man, This man's done a lot of leagues. So the second part of Slick Panther's question, he's going to ask you, favorite team you've ever picked?
Favorite team? I think one probably stands out above the rest, and that'd be my NPL season 7. I had Landorus and Celesteela as my first 2 picks, the ones I mentioned earlier.
Yeah.
And then I had Mega Diancie and Hydreigon, and I had a really strong defensive core behind it. Yeah, it was just a team that like suited my play style, I think, to a T, and I was able to be pretty creative with it across the season. And that definitely stands out to me as the one I've enjoyed the most.
NPL season 7, we're gonna have to look deeper into that one. That sounds interesting. The fact that you get Landorus T and Celesteela, that's incredible. For the first 2, those who typically go first overall. Not first overall, but first in the draft for most teams.
Absolutely. I think this was at the point in the gen when people didn't quite realize how insane Celesteela was. I think I was pick 7 or something, so I got Celly on the way back. Yeah, it was. Wow. Yeah, I think a lot of people are pretty shocked to this day that it made it back, but yeah.
What did they know? They know now. They know right today. They know now.
That's right.
The third part of Slick's question, he asks you, a majority of draft players in Gen A think Gliscor is better than Lando T. If so, why or why not? What's your opinion on those 2 mons?
Yeah, so there's a lot of truth in that. With Gen 8, we don't have hidden powers anymore, and that's really that was really the main held ground flying types back from checking electric types. It was that hidden power ice coverage. Gliscor is very difficult to take down now without like stab ice beam or stab for attacks. So and just having that toxic orb passive recovery each turn, and having access to Roost and Rocks and U-turn, it can perform all the functions of Lando. And plus this gen, Lando's lost access to Z-moves, which is really what set Lando above the edge in Gen 7 as an offensive on. Just having that access to like Z-Fly, Z-EQ, Z-Superpower, stuff like that was pretty pivotal in Lando being as dominant as it was. But Gliscor now, it kind of outshines Lando in a lot of ways. Lando now is like Olras Gen 6 Lando, which was nowhere near as dominant as Gen 7 Lando was. So yeah, Gliscor's, I would say, is definitely a better pick, but Lando's still going to be great. Gliscor just offers more to a team, in my opinion now.
Ooh.
Yeah.
Hot take. It's fun to hear that conversational this conversation is hot amongst a lot of draft league players, and it's cool to hear your perspective on it. So I'm sure it's gonna settle a lot of people to be like, ha, told you so. So I'm glad that you put that on the open. That's cool.
Yeah.
At Platinum Howler, he's gonna ask you, was just going back to what you talked about before, how you got to start back in OU. He asks you, what's your preferred format to play in Pokemon? Is it regular, Uber, low tier, etc.? If you were to choose a specific format to play in, what's your favorite?
Well, outside of draft nowadays would certainly be my favorite, but I would say OU is my focus over the years. I've dabbled in tiers. I used to enjoy Ubers quite a bit, but OU's where I spent most time. I played in different OU tournaments over the years and enjoyed that. So yeah, that's where I haven't really played lower tiers since Gen 6, so OU for me would definitely be the one.
We do love some OU. That's some fun competitive stuff. It's fun to get that conversation started about the OU tier, because some people don't like it because you see the same Pokemon over and over again, but at the same time it allows you to be more competitive with Pokemon that are a little bit more versatile and being able to be more creative with specific mons. And even though you do see the same Pokemon on the same team, it's cool to see different kinds of ways you can use them. So I'm glad that you said OU, because I too love the OU tier. Phenomenal tier. I love the OU tier. The next question we have here is from @JustKirby.
We love Kirby.
Great friend of the podcast, amazing human being. He asks you, many people have you on their bucket list of draft league players to play. So do you have any players you wish to play in the format that you haven't played already?
Oh, that I haven't played already. Honestly, I think I've played about everyone that I want to challenge. I'm trying to think of someone really good that I haven't already played.
That says a lot. You've been around the block.
Yeah, that's cool.
Yeah. I think honestly, like, I'll answer that question in a way. I think, like, because I've played pretty much everyone that I want to play, I think more so like the goal I have is to lead my DPL team to a championship. I think that's the most kind of the biggest goal I'd say left for me in draft. Because if I think about guys that I haven't played, can't really think about anyone that I'd love to play that I haven't already played.
That's
I'm sure there are great players.
I love your mentality flip that you've done. So before you've done, like I said, been there, done that. You've done a lot of draft things. You've won a lot of championships. I love the fact that you've turned yourself into more of like the leadership role, because you can see that flip. What do I want to say? You can see that switch flipped on a lot of people that have played a lot of a specific game. Doesn't even have to be Pokemon. It could be something else.
I feel like, sorry to cut you off, but I feel like when people go through that, like they've been doing draft for a long time, they're kind of getting like in that same position where it's not the same for them anymore. They start transitioning to different games, you know, they start wanting to explore different avenues aside of just Pokemon. But it's cool to see that you have, instead of just like, okay, I'm going to try doing something else, you help other people. What I've heard of is that you do your best. You became a leader and you help other people aside, you know,
grow as players
and improve their skills and let them see different aspects, which I think is really cool. Because not to say that those other people, like, it's bad to transition, but they still love the game. It's just you found a different way to love it and help other people on top of that, if that makes any sense what I just said.
Thank you. No, I appreciate that. I get what you mean. I think, like, I don't know, Pokemon's like, when it is in some ways like addicting in the sense that like the rush you get from playing is you sort of notice it when you don't play it for a while. You sort of get a craving to play it again, for sure. But yeah, I think that environment, like you said, is a lot of good fun to play in, and that really just nowadays is what drives me. I think draft things like Draft Premier League is probably the best thing to happen to the format lately. I think draft was getting kind of stale. And when team tournaments were introduced, a lot of the competitive scene was sort of like reinvigorated, if you get what I mean. Like a lot, and like this is an opinion that's shared by many of the people that I've spoken to. Like they actually don't play leagues; they just wait until Draft Premier League comes back to try and get a spot, to try and get, you know, taken in. So it's a good way for people to make a name for themselves, to get into these prestigious leagues if they do well in these team tournaments. So it's a good platform for people to try and aim for.
To get their names out there, to get themselves showcased to other leagues. More
exposure for them too.
It gives them a chance to get onto leagues and maybe they haven't had the chance to, but basically lets their name to be known, which is cool. So shout out to Panther and his little pull that he has in that administration over there. Panther's a good buddy of ours. The next question that we have is from @Michael Rashford, goes by Silver Smasher. He asks you, what was your perception of me initially as we teamed for DPL compared to now?
That's his fifth question, actually. Because look at the top.
He did multiple. Okay, cool. So that's number 5. So he asks you what the perception. So obviously you know who Silver Smasher is. He wants to know what you thought of him after when you guys teamed up together.
Yeah, so I didn't know Silver before we teamed DPL. When Panther grabbed me the team, we started talking in DMs about who else we were going to take, and he was saying, you know, my buddy Silver, he's really good. And I was like, I don't know, I've never heard of Silver. Like, tell me more about him. Like, because I at that point, damage control, like I just sure we got a good team. They kind of messed up and spent too much on me, so I was like, we got to really try and find some value picks for the leftover money we have. And he's like, no, trust me, you know, Silver's really good. Like he's worth it. We ended up getting him for, I think, like the minimum bid, or very, very cheap. So I was like, all right, well, that's good if you say he's as good as he is. Anyway, as the season progressed, like Silver showed how good he was as a player, just really like showed his consistency and his skill level, and I could see why Panther was gassing him up, because he was overall as well, he's just a really friendly guy. Like he was really good morale in the team. He's a really positive guy, so I really enjoyed teaming with him, and I picked him. I think we grabbed him in season 3 as well when I was captaining. I picked him up again too, because I did really enjoy teaming, and he's a great value player for sure.
Yeah, we love Silver.
We
He's a
do
good
love
guy.
Silver.
The first question that he had here was about Crit City, so we'll skip that one since we already kind of touched on that. But he does have a really cool question for number 2. He asks you, what would be your advice to players looking to improve?
My advice would be to don't be put off by when you first get into draft. Like it's a lot to take in, especially if you're jumping into like a really competitive kind of league or tour or anything like that. Just don't be put off by it. Just keep learning. Watch people who are better than you. That's the number one thing you can do. Like watch people who are better than you. Really sit down and try and understand like why they built the way they did, and try and avoid the trap of asking other people to build for you. All the best players build their own teams, and it's fine to ask for help with building from experienced people if they have the time. But if other people are building for you all the time, then you're not really developing that skill as a builder, which is key to succeeding in the format. So just take it slow. Like learn how to build your own teams, and play. Just play mons. Just play whether it's OU, UU, whatever. Just like get into the habit of becoming a better player, because player skill translates to all different aspects, whether it's OU, standard, whether it's draft, whether it's a VGC. Familiarizing yourself with the game and just getting good at understanding the fundamentals of the game will translate into draft success.
Yeah.
I like that.
Yeah.
That's good. You made me feel good on that. That was cool. Look at you. So this next part he asks you is to gas you up a little bit, in the most humble way possible, of course, in the best Silver fashion. He asks you, how do you think you've become the king you are today? What do you think is the main attributor to your success?
I think when it comes to like my success in the past, I think about the matchup a lot. So like I've poured probably too much more time into my draft league, especially my important games than I really should have. But as a result, I can say the same thing for my friends. Like you may know guys like Zazo, Matty Brolick, Aki. They're like other really well-known established players. Like they too will. Anyone who's at the top, guys. I got other friends like John. They will put in large amount of time into building, into mocking, into understanding a matchup. And the more experience you get, the kind of glean insights into a particular matchup. And if you're just like going for a walk, you'll just like think about, this set could work great, or like, my opponent will bring this. I think over time, like, kind of go from viewing a matchup to not only like what will work for you, but like what will work for your opponent. And you just kind of build this gauge about how well you can sort of predict what your opponent will bring. That just, I think, comes with experience and time. Honestly, it's like I said, I've been playing for years now, so I've just kind of honed that over the years. I'm a different player now than I was when I started in the NPL, but yeah, it's a time thing. But literally, like just thinking about a matchup, kind of analyzing it from different angles has helped me achieve over the years.
Being a student of the game, essentially making sure that everything is set up in a way to where you're able to grow as a player and still understand what you're building for moving forward. I like that.
And it's true, it comes with experience. The more you do it, the more you learn. Even if you lose, you learn from those experiences.
We'd love getting blasted. Oh my goodness. This fourth part that he asks you is actually a pretty cool question. He asks you, what's the hardest league you think you've participated in
up until this point?
All the draft leagues that you've done to this point, because you've been there, done that. But do you have a league that stands out to you that's been pretty difficult?
As far as leagues go, I'd have to say probably, I think NPL season 6 was when Maddie and Zazo were both NPL with me. That was probably the most stacked competition that league had. And as far as leagues themselves go, that was probably the most competitive league that I've been. As far as like raw competition, I'd say DPL has had the best competition, because DPL tends to be like cream of the crop, or at least people who sign up. You only tend to get taken if people know who you are, or if you succeeded, if you've sort of shown your success. So that tends to be where a lot of the top talent congregates. And I'd say, like, in terms of like raw like talent, that's probably the most stacked league that I've been involved in, if you call it that. It is a tournament, but it's sort of a league in a way. But as far as like actual league, I'd say NPL Season 6 would take the cake for that. Yeah.
NPL has been a common denominator of a lot of the stuff we've been talking about. So the NPL has been a big force back in the day, huh?
It was certainly, yeah. It was it kind of came. It was around when the GBA was going on YouTube and was alive and well, and a lot of eyes were on the GBA. But the NPL was this kind of minute league compared to the GBA that was purely on Showdown. But the talent level in NPL was I guess from my perspective it was like well and truly above the GBA, which is what drew me to it, because I was watching a friend of mine playing it at the time, and I thought, yeah, this looks great. Like, I'd love to be involved in something like this. It's a lot more accessible than trying to get involved in the GBA as someone with no YouTube channel and stuff like that. So that's what drew me to it.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, things change. Like, other leagues have popped up. I'd say nowadays the most competitive league you're looking a showdown league called LD, which probably won't mean a lot to a lot of people, but it's called League Dependency. They're probably they would have the most stack. Or actually, my friend Maddie has a league called UDL, which has pretty much all the good players from LD in it, plus him, myself, and Aki as well. So that's probably what I'd say nowadays would be. But I could be wrong. There could be plenty of other leagues with really great players that I've never heard about. So yeah.
But at the end of the day, it's just from accessibility, right? Accessibility gives you the best players regardless.
Yeah.
Exactly.
So Shuckle, good friend of ours, awesome human being.
_King.
He is alumni of the Grandmaster's table. He is also a king in the name, but of the Shuckle variety, he's king of the Shuckles, and we have king of the Gypsies here today. I love him to death. Due to time constraints, we're just gonna limit this to one question because my man just went off the complete rails, and that just shows the beautiful human being that he is. There is one question on here that I would love to ask you, just to kind of change up the light a little bit, to give you a fun aspect of the same things that we were talking about. One of the questions that he asks you, this is at Shuckle King, which is Shuckle_King. He asks you, if you had to live on a desert island with 3 months, this is so specific.
For 3 months.
If you had to live on a desert island for 3 months with 3 draft league players, who would you take?
Oh, 3 draft league players. I don't know. I wonder if Shuckle had my answer in mind when he asked this. I'd probably let me think. I'd take Aki because he's good value.
Good value.
And he'd be annoyed at me for bringing him out to this deserted island. I'd take Maddie because he's a smart dude. He'd be able to get us off that island, I reckon. And I'd have to take Zazu to complete the trio because he's crazy and find a way to get us food, like swim out, and he's got he'd go and catch fish. I reckon those are the 3 I'd have to choose. If off the top of my head, I wouldn't want to bring anyone else to a desert island. It'd be pretty rough. Those guys would get me, I reckon, so.
I can make those guys suffer.
I love the fact that you went strategic with this. Not only is it because the people that you know, we're like, they bring value to you.
You got all your bases covered.
You're here because you're a fisherman. Go get the fucking
Go get the fish.
I love that's good. See, this just shows why you're such a good draft league player, because everything you do is strategic to the point where the people that you bring on the desert island, you know what I'm saying? That's awesome. So shout out to Shuckle King. He's got some outrageous questions.
Yeah, he does.
Absolute death. My man, I know that you've been kind of absent from the YouTube scene, but is there anything that you would like to plug that you maybe there's some undercover projects that we don't know about that you wanted to bring to light? But do you have anything coming soon?
Well, I am working on a video. It's not related to Pokemon or gaming in general, but it is something that interests me. So that should be coming soon. But as far as Mons content, draft content, I am planning on the upcoming DPL, so I will be uploading my games from eventually at some point when I do play those. So there will be more draft content on the way. It just won't be over the couple of weeks. Yeah.
Everybody that was listening to this podcast and that was hoping that you would say that just sat up on their seat, ready to come back to the YouTube scene. That's cool, man. So I'm sure that'll be something that a lot of people
People will
have
look forward
highly
to, for
anticipated for quite some time. But my man, I want to thank you for coming on to the Grandmaster's table, my dude. I really appreciate you giving us the time. I know that you had a busy work day today, so I really appreciate you sitting down with us today.
Oh, no worries. No, it's been great. Thanks for having me on, guys. I've enjoyed the talk.
Do you have any other last things to say, Summer, before we hop off?
It was a lot of fun. Thank you for joining us. You're very nice, as you have proven what the people have said.
I'll compare it to like talking to you as like, do you know like the supervisor at your job that you actually like when you're there?
Oh my gosh.
You're very calm, collected, very formal. It's like talking to like that one supervisor that's just trying to watch you succeed in life. That's the same way, the same feel that I have whenever I speak to you. So I appreciate your positive energy.
You guys have been great to talk to as well. Very
you.
nice, chill couple, and I can see why you guys have got a good thing going with your podcast. So
thank you.
All the best for sure of it.
Oh, well, thank you. We appreciate it. Guys, if you guys enjoyed this episode of the Grandmaster's Table, do us a massive favor. Make sure you hit the thumbs up button. Again, if you're new, por favor, subscribe. Really does help us out a lot. It shows the support. If you ever want to support us, it's free. Do us a favor, hit the subscribe button.
Jeez.
Helps us out a lot. Say that a lot. So, with that being said, guys, we're going to get the heck up out of here. Have a great rest of your night, and above all else, be nice. Peace.